Let me begin first by sharing with you my personal story. So I was a freshman in college. One morning on December 1978, we heard from the PA system that US and China were going to establish diplomatic relations effective January the 1st, 1979. So we were all flabbergasted. We didn't believe a rising country, a socialist rising country like China was going to have a formal relationship with the declining and decadent country of the United States. During the Spring Festival of 1979, we watched on the small black and white TV of Vice Premier Deng Xiaoping's visit to the United States. It was then when we realized that this change is going to be so important for China and for the United States. Now, in 1987, after working for 5 years in China as an English editor, I decided to travel to the University of Hawaii in Honolulu, Hawaii, to study. When I was an English editor, we decide what books to be translated into Chinese, and there's no sense that there is a copyright issue. What I did back then is to visit all my professors who came back either from Australia or from United Kingdom or America. They oftentimes came back with a lot of books, and I was going to borrow a few from them and read them, and then whichever one I think is interesting and could be published in China, we'll just make the decision and find a translator to translate the book. And now, of course, you see, China has already grown from that period when every book could be pirated to now that, you have to buy the copyright. And lastly, in 1998, I was teaching here in a small college in Atlanta. My professor at Emory University, where I got my PhD degree in American history, he said, Yahweh, could you come and work with me on China? I said, what kind of thing are you working on China? He said, we're working on elections in China. I told him, I said, there is no such a thing called elections in China. He said, no, you're wrong. Look into it. So I looked into it. There were indeed village elections that took place every 3 years, which is still the case in China. So now I basically spend all my time trying to do everything to reduce the misperception between the US and China, because this misperception between the two countries, which is growing at a very rapid rate now, will lead to miscalculation and possibly to a conflict between these two great nations. So that's the small story of me in the big story of US-China relations.